This week I record the intro like this because I forgot to do it earlier. We talk about AXCC in Oklahoma racing, and we had a little bit of a short course event. Strap in and welcome to the Race Pace.
Sponsored by CW Motorsports. I'm Doug.
And I'm Chad.
And racing has finally started again. Now, I do know that a couple weeks ago there was some Texplex stuff, but we don't cover that as much. We're talking about racing as we know it here in the Midwest, so we're going to be a little bit biased here and say it's now officially started.
More of the XC style. Texplex is almost like short course stuff to me.
Yeah. And this wasn't really local because it was AXCC, what was now their first round after the cancellations, and it was clear down in Oklahoma. It was about a 12-hour drive for me. I think most people found it to be about a 10-hour drive from where they were in central Illinois, Indiana. So yeah. It was a haul down there.
Yeah, I just came to the point where I was like, you know what? I have other things going on, which we'll get to here in a little bit. I can't make the trip this go round.
Yes, there were rumors of some possibly unsanctioned racing at the Shoemaker compound.
It was a test and tune day. Maybe
okay,
there
we'll
was
call
some
it
racing.
But anyways, AXCC down in Cameron, Oklahoma. If you've never heard of Cameron, Oklahoma, it's because the entire town is 197 acres and there's 263 people that live there as of 2018.
That's bigger than my town, I think.
Just slightly, yes. Actually, I think Eminence would challenge it for smallest town ever, but...
Yeah.
Because Eminence is, it's really just a... Well, it's not even a stop sign. It's just kind of... It's a corner.
Yeah, it's two intersecting roads. That's it.
There were 3 buildings, and one of them fell down last year.
Yeah. Eminence has a checkered history of losing buildings due to fire, even though they have a fire department as one of the buildings there.
The building next door to the fire department actually burned down. So
the 2 next door to it in different times, not in the same fire. The church right next to it burnt down, and the gas station that was right from that. Like, I could throw a baseball over the furthest building from where the fire station is, and it burnt down. That's how bad it is.
That's amazing. Anyways, something about racing.
Yeah.
So, anyways, just outside of Cameron, Oklahoma, little tiny town, but it was the round 1. They were calling it Big Fox Run. And we had 19 UTVs show up for this one. Some people showed up, only were able to turn 1 lap. Now, if you've been following the news, you've noticed that a lot of the country has gotten a lot of rain, and it was no exception down there. It was a muddy race. The track conditions were not optimal. At this point, we're taking whatever Mother Nature gives us because we have not been racing, and we're just going to have to be beggars instead of choosers. But
very true. They had some real storms the night before even, and they had to delay the start of the race by a few hours to get it all to get going because there's lightning and high winds and everything else. It was just a mess. And if you guys have seen any of the videos, and I think I have a few I'll try and throw in here, but it was a mud bog. It was bad.
It was pretty rough. However, Mr. Matthias Rowell came out on top in the Pro Turbo class and overall. In fact, it was a top 3 Can-Am finish, which is becoming less and less surprising right now. So you had Matt Rowell in first. Mitch Lankford finished about 11 seconds behind him in the number 2 spot, and Spencer Modlin in his Can-Am came in about 4 minutes and 53 seconds back in the number 3 spot. And then rounding out your top 5, you've got Sean Hess and John Barnes running 4th and 5th. Yep. And then moving down from there, you start to get a mix of the different classes. Something somewhat unique about this race that we haven't seen before is a couple of Hondas took the field. And they did okay. Chad Deutsch finished in 6th place overall. And where's my other Honda? Jared Sheets in 7th. Yep. And those were, one was running Pro Turbo, and that was Chad, and then Jared Sheets was running Pro-Am Turbo, and those were both DR power sports cars, I believe.
Yes, they are.
Okay. So
both those have
take to the
turbos
field
on them and tuned and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really have any news to what happened, but I mean, honestly, they finished mid-pack. It's not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of where I expected the Hondas to end up. I've never said they were a bad machine, but they're not going to be scaring the Can-Ams, at least not in their current incarnation.
I don't think so either. Maybe it'll prove me wrong. I don't know, but I don't see it doing it either.
I did like Jack, and I'm probably going to butcher his last name, Laturnio. Jack, I'm so sorry. What? But he was running one of the only double X out there, one of the few that are actually racing anywhere. I really, really like the double X, but man, it's hard to make a case for that machine without a turbo on it. But it's good to see some still out there. And hey, Arctic Cat,
put a turbo
on it, please.
Doug and I were talking just before the show. I would seriously consider that for my next machine. Like, very seriously consider that if they would put a turbo on it. Without a turbo, I will not even consider it.
Yeah. Too heavy, 125 horses, not enough to be competitive for a machine that weighs 1,800 pounds from the factory. I mean, that's before you're putting a cage on it and getting it ready to race.
Yeah.
You're easily a 1-ton machine with 125 horsepower, and they handle really well, and I like the setup. I love the cockpit. They did so many things right on that. I'm like, just throw a turbo on it and make us all happy, please.
But they won't, or they haven't.
They haven't. Maybe this will be the year.
Yeah.
Maybe Santa will come early. But no, we had just kind of a nice mix of drivers that people, names people will recognize from the ranks from last year and from other race series. And our own Steve Mueller went out there as well. Unfortunately, only turned one lap. He got really hung up on a lap, didn't have a co-driver, had to winch himself out. At that point was so far back he was not competitive in his class, so he thought, you know what, we're just going to pack it in rather than burning this machine up and trying to make up time on a rough track. So,
yeah.
But he got out there and got his lap in. He was the only one of two people in his class, so
it didn't really matter.
It didn't matter at that minute. Jared Sheets was the other one in his class who finished all 5 laps, and Steve got hung up so long there was just no hope of catching him. So
yeah,
might as well take your lap and go home.
Yep. I gave Steve some grief. I shot him a message and said, bet you wish you had that co-driver now. He said, absolutely, pack your gear, you're back in.
I don't need you for navigation. I do need you for other purposes.
Yeah. You need to get out and run that winch.
I'm super, super excited to see how his machine does in a full race, though. I mean,
yeah.
The first one, he had the unfortunate clamp issue. This one, he got hung up and stuck, and it just didn't make any sense to go out there and turn any more laps. So I'm really desperately curious to see how his machine does in a full race, because it's a brand new build, it's a Pro XP, and I know there's other people racing him. There's some evidence that they're a very solid car, but I specifically want to know how Steve does in it, because he looked so good in that X3 during the Heartland Challenge last year.
I want to see if it really boosts his driving that much more. It boosts his confidence in what the car can do.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I've heard several different places say that they would never drive the old 64-inch Polaris like they would drive this machine. That it felt more like a 72-inch wide machine than a 64. So that tells you something about the handling and the kind of the confidence level that people have with it. So if that bleeds over into him, then it could be interesting.
Yeah. It's, in my opinion, I think the Polaris, I'm going to say, has a little bit more race pedigree than the Honda does. I'm willing to say the Honda will prove me wrong maybe at some point, but the Polaris I have a little bit more faith in what it's going to do in the race series just because it has that race pedigree already behind it.
Yeah.
So, super excited to see how Steve does and kind of what some of these new machines do as they get some races out there and get some races under their belts or direct drive transmissions.
The only pro single seat we had out there this weekend was the best racing name of all time.
Yeah.
Bobby Hasty.
Yeah.
If you're going to race, that's the kind of name you want to have. Bobby Hasty.
That's a good one. Rusty Shackelford. That was another one. He was down in is he AXCC or LACC?
LACC, yes.
Yeah.
Rusty Shackelford.
That's a great one.
Yes. So no, we're having a really good time just kind of laughing with people and talking about things that went right and things that went wrong, and it just is a reminder that racing is good for the soul.
Yes. Well, not good for the pocketbook, but very good for the soul.
No, most things that are good for your soul are terrible for your pocketbook. So.
Yep.
And you did have a test and tune day out there at the Shoemaker compound.
I did. There were several racers who just absolutely couldn't make the haul down to Oklahoma and back for multiple reasons. So, and they were looking to get some seat time because there's another race coming up this next weekend here, which maybe we'll get to real quick. But I had about a dozen guys out yesterday, which would have been Saturday. It's a couple days ago from when this gets released. But so they came out and we ran the short course. And I can say in true racer format, the short course got wider. And some of the corners got opened up a little bit bigger than they used to be.
Now the lines are where they should be, right?
Well, there were some people thought they should have been anyway.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. But no, everybody had a good time. All the cars did really well. Handled it just fine. Actually, kind of the funnest part of all of it was really we all just kind of parked around it in like the yard area that we have. And we were all just hanging out. And then 2 or 3 guys would go out and run. And then when they came in, a couple more would go out and run. And it was just kind of this rotation. But the fun part was Michael Plank brought his son, and Devin's boys were out there in their 570, and they all got to go run their machines. These kids, like Plank's son had never driven Mike's RS1. But because it's a big short course, open field, groomed track and everything, there's really, I mean, like you'd have to seriously lose control to go off track or something. And it was a really safe place for him to learn and try it. And that's what made it nice.
Were you timing any laps out there? I'm just curious what a fast lap on that track looks like.
We didn't time any of... Devin timed his son, who turned a 113 in the 570. We didn't time any of the others. Really, we weren't racing each other. I mean, some of the guys got out there and were kind of pushing each other a little bit on the track and, playing cat and mouse with it. But no one was racing to try and beat a time or anything like that. I just
figured maybe somebody was curious enough to time something, but
yeah, nobody really did. It was more of a hangout time. I would say you'd be sub 1 minute, probably closer to 50 seconds if I was guessing.
Okay,
would be a quick lap out there on that, and track conditions just kind of play a big part in it. We had a lot of rain here the week before. We had 3 inches of rain, like same as Oklahoma, basically. But the track was really, really wet on part of it, and I spent the whole day, Friday afternoon and evening, trying to get the track of what I could fixed up. I took the tractor out and dug out part of the track and brought in new dirt and packed it in because it was just mud.
Yeah.
And if I just dropped more dirt on top of it, I was just going to make more mud. So I was digging out part of the track. I was able to grade about 2/3 of it, but there's part of the track that just wasn't draining well, was too soft even to get on to grade. Like nothing we had here between trucks and tractors and everything would drag the big grader across it. So, and it was too wet to grade even at that. So I just kind of told the guys, well, we can run on it if you want, but it's, gonna be a little bit muddy until we blow the top off. And we all just kind of ran on it and blew the top off, and it was fine then. I went out and kind of just took a lap this afternoon just to see what the track looked like, because I only got out and ran 3 laps maybe, because it wasn't time for me to run. It was time to let these guys run.
Sure.
But I looked around, and the track is really no worse for the wear. There's a couple ruts in a couple spots, but nothing that dragging a grader blade won't solve pretty quick. So that's good. I mean, like I said, the corners got a little wider, and Some places in the track got a little wider, but that's all right. It doesn't hurt anything to have that.
How are the jumps?
We have no jumps on this one yet.
What?
Yeah, I have
disappointed.
I have not had time. I need to haul some dirt up from the lake and start building jumps. But it takes a lot more dirt to build a jump than what people think.
Just do what they do for the monster truck rallies and stuff a couple old cars and just put dirt over the top of them.
Yeah, that's what Plank suggested too.
I knew I liked that guy.
Yeah. I don't think I'll be shoving cars up underneath it, because the problem is you wear through that and you get to that car, you're ripping tires up.
Fine.
But no jumps this time. I'm going to try and get some in there here in the reasonably near future and get that going. But for now, it's just more flat track style. And everybody had fun. Some guys got to come out and test some things that they were not able to test prior. We had a YXZ come out. I'm not going to name any names just in case for their work or for their state they were not supposed to leave or be out or whatever. But I had a YXZ come out who had a new turbo on the car, and he really hadn't got to run it much. Nice. He found that he was overheating, which kind of isn't surprising for that track. But he found why this morning when he was cleaning it up, I guess, that the fan wasn't running, and he got it plugged in and got it running, or whatever the issue was. So that was good. I mean, it saved him during a race overheating.
Yeah, it's usually some small detail like that.
Yep. Another couple guys got to actually come out and run a couple different tunes, and one of them was getting some high belt temps, 265, I think he said.
Ooh.
So, but he rerouted his belt intake while we're out there in the field, and he said, "Well, I definitely saw the temps come way down." So, it's a good time to test and tune and figure out how everybody's doing and how everything's going to shake out for the season, because you sure don't want to do that mid-race.
Yeah, no, that's what these days are for. That's what they're valuable for, is you don't have to learn on the track. I mean, a lot of side-by-side racers are notorious for the test is driving it onto the trailer and then back off, and onto the start line, and that's the only testing you get. So it's kind of nice to have a chance to do a little more thorough job than that. Especially when you're doing something like adding a turbo to a machine. There's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot of tuning and little persnickety things that you want to have a chance to flush out before you just take it out somewhere.
Absolutely. So, after we ran the short course there for, we were on it for 4 or 5 hours. Then we came back over here to my place, grilled some burgers, and just kind of hung out and talked for a couple hours, or an hour or so. And then most everybody started to take off after that, and then a few people that stayed around, we went up to the east side of the property and ran on the XC section to kind of get a mix. It's like I was telling one of the guys, I said, this way you kind of get used to driving the fast stuff, and then in the XC section I have, it's tight and technical. There is no fast. You probably don't go faster than 20 mile an hour the whole time. I said this section just teaches you how to place your tires, is really what it does.
Yeah.
So it was good for a couple of the people that got to come out, and one of them was kind of looking at some new machines and thinking what their next machine is going to be, and they currently drive just a naturally aspirated 1000 Polaris XP, and he got to jump in my turbo, he got to jump in an X3 and drive that around, he got to jump in an RS1 and drive that around, and kind of just feel out exactly what he's looking for in the next machine. Now they're not making a jump right now, but it's not very many places you can go jump in them back to back to back, and these are all pretty well prepped race machines. And,
not just jumping them back to back to back, but have a place to actually run them. I mean, other than just just take it around behind the service building and then bring it back. Yeah. You have no idea what you just bought.
Right. So, I mean, it was good for that. I mean, I know it's not always going to be able to happen, but that's kind of one of the good things about getting hooked in with your group of local racers and having days and events like this, if you guys can find a place to do it, because if you're looking at making a modification that somebody has on their machine already, somebody was talking about a gated shifter, and I was like, well, walk over and look at mine, see what it feels like, see if it's something that you like. And, it's something that I can show you what I've done, and I can see what you've done. Which one do I like better, or do I like this whole different machine better because it has a different feel? And there's just a big benefit to getting hooked in with the race community and your local racers and having those test and tune days. Because it's not all just about competition. Really, yesterday for us was about hanging out and just seeing how everybody was doing.
Absolutely. Well, hey, we're getting close to the end of this thing, but before we get going, Chad, what do we got to look forward to next weekend?
Next weekend is Extreme. They're down in Odin, Indiana, at the Parsons Motorsports Compound. Something. It's Parsons. We always just call it Parsons. But they're down there. They are doing everything. They're doing the side-by-sides. They're doing the bikes. They're doing the quads. They've already been cleared, according to what we've been told by the series owner, Tabitha, who was on here a few weeks ago. They've already been cleared by the health department. They've been okay to do this. Now they're saying limited spectators, or family, no spectators, and you can have limited pit crew. I don't know. Okay. Take that for how you want.
Yeah. There's a lot of room for interpretation there, but
read between those lines. Yeah. So I have something going on that day, but I think I'll be able to make it down for the side-by-side race. It'll be close. I'm going to have to see. But hopefully I can make it down there. There's a few guys who are hoping to make it there, so should be a good time either way.
It's just good to see a schedule start to come together again. And I know it's going to be a mess for all these series trying to figure out when they can schedule stuff. They normally try and not schedule on top of each other, but that's going to be absolutely impossible going forward. It's going to be what it is.
Yep, fully agree.
Well, we do want to say a big thank you to all of our sponsors. Of course, CW Motorsports, our title sponsor for this year. We've also got 834 Powder Coat on board, and Matt Price has that awesome new shop that is really looking amazing, and you can just imagine the incredible work he's going to be pumping out of there. We've also got Spanx Fab on board, so if you buy some amazing parts from Spanx Fab, then you can take them over to 834, and he can make them look even better. And then if you need internet access, you can hit up Watch Communications, who has hosted our podcast and our website for the past number of years and can give you internet access if you live in rural parts of Illinois, Indiana, or Ohio, where the Comcast giant has not put its foot down yet. You can find us on the web at eminentperformance.com, YouTube /Eminent Performance. We're also active on Facebook and Instagram at Eminent Racing. Some guy still owns Eminent Performance, and I have not been able to get my hands on that for us for those two platforms. So, sorry. And if you want to find the podcast version, just look on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict. Anywhere you can think of that you find podcasts, you'll probably find this mess as well, just by searching for Eminent Performance.
Yep.
And if it's not too much trouble, if you could subscribe and leave us a like or a comment or something along those lines, that definitely helps us grow. And it's kind of the old, any attention is better than no attention. So even if you hate us, go ahead and say so. At least it gets some discussion going and maybe some more exposure for us.
Yep. One thing I do want to add, because Doug normally asks, and in case he didn't ask, right now with all the racing kicking back off, series are going to be scrambling. It's going to be short notice for a lot of things, and they're kind of going to be in disarray. Give them a little grace, guys. They're probably doing the best they can, I'm sure.
Absolutely. This is going to be a real test for series that are starved for cash because they didn't get their normal start. And believe it or not, your local race series is not making money hand over fist and buying brand new $100,000 trucks because they own a race series. Yeah. They're struggling. They need your help. I mean, honestly, if you've got some time and can find a way to pitch in and volunteer to kick this thing off this year, probably greatly appreciated.
Yep, for sure.
All right, everybody. Well, we appreciate you riding along with us, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.